Hello, my name is David Garcia, and in this video, I'm going to be going over my essay, which that I wrote. This essay, uh, the class that I wrote this essay for is Dr. Campbell's History class 2202. First, I will read my introduction, exactly how it is written right here, and then I will be going over my main body points between each of the paragraphs, providing a quote that I have highlighted over here, providing a quote from each and giving the main reason why I had picked these quotes. So starting off with my introduction, I wrote the Spanish-American War marked an important moment in the history of the United States as it transformed the nation from a regional power to a global power. This essay will examine the reasons and opinions during and after the war that provides an understanding of why the United States pushed to invade and take control of the Philippines. The late 19th century marked the nation's transition to global power. This sparked some tension over what kind of people America should be. Through six different sources, the essay explores how different thinkers see the situation for imperial expansion. It argues that the US taking control of the Philippines was driven by a few different types of reasons, which were economic, racial, and strategic motives. This began the idea of expanding power among others to help guide them as it is their duty to be part of the United States. So this is my introduction. Now I'm going to go over my main ideas from my body paragraphs. I will also explain the quote I chose from each primary source, why I picked the quote, and how this will help answer the prompt about why the United States took control of the Philippines. As I go through each source, I will show some highlighted quotes from my essay and then I will explain. So starting off with source one, this one is from Henry Cabot Lodge, and his current one is right here. The main idea of this one is Lodge was arguing that America needed to expand for economic reasons, which will provide them with strength later in their future, which he sought to believe was needed. The quote I chose was the two great principles established at the outset by far-seeing statesmen, Lodge 2. Why I chose this quote was because Lodge says that old ideas like neutrality are no longer enough. He believed the US needed new markets and resources to compete with Europe since they thought they were falling behind. This helps answer the prompt because it shows the economic fear and competition for expansion or their major reason of why they wanted to expand, which is my first quote. My second source slash quote was from Albert Beveridge. Um, the main idea for this one was he believed the U.S. was chosen by God to rule over the people who are less developed or need the help from people, which in this case we are talking about the Philippines. And the quote that I chose for this one was the flag has never halted in its forward march. Why I chose this quote was this quote provides us with how Beveridge, or how, I don't know, saw expansion as something natural and unstoppable. It provides us that the racial belief towards Filipinos could not govern themselves as they were unfit still, which this provides us with information of why they're showing racial and moral justification towards imperialism during the century, which this was the second one. And we want to talk about our third source, which is from Charles G. Amos. His main idea was against imperialism because he believed for it to be morally wrong and went against the values of America. what uh his quote is a little tricky to read here, but the quote says, "We must face the truth and the question beneath it all." Amos. I picked this quote due to Amos providing us that Americans need to be honest about what they are doing. He argues that conquering other people goes against the idea of freedom, and uh this shows us that the moral argument against imperialism and how some Americans were also still disagreeing with the things going on in the Philippines and wanted none of that to happen due to the idea of it removing freedom from people, since freedom is known in America, since it's one of the main ideas people are going to America because they're going to be receiving freedom. And as the Philippines are, or as the Americans are going over to the Philippines and noticing that they have the chance to take over and control them and gain the power, they want to lie to the Philippines and get rid of their freedom by telling them that they're going to babysit them and help them grow as a whole group so they can at one point start to start to govern themselves, but at this current time they are still unfit and unprepared to do that. So the Americans want to take advantage of this to gain control and power. So for my third source, I chose William Jennings Bryan, which the main idea of this was Bryan argues that democracy means people should rule themselves. This includes the Philippines, the people of the Philippines. The quote I chose for this is, "When a young man comes of age, he claims the right to act for himself." Why I chose this quote is because this quote compares Filipino independence to Americans' own fight for their own independence. Bryan believes that a true democracy cannot support an empire, which this helps provide with showing that imperialism went against American ideas of freedom, that it wasn't something that should not be happening at this time or any time. For my fifth source, I talked about the Sherman Commission, also which was the report. The main idea of this was the commission said Filipinos were not ready for independence, which is their way of trying to justify U.S. control over Philippines. The quote I chose for this in the report was, Americans forces quickly occupied a line from Pasay in the south to Colocan in the north, Sherman 4, which is them taking over places in the Philippines and moving in as if they own it all. Why I chose this quote was due to it shows how fast the US took control. Once again, as I said, they're all moving in rapidly. And that argued the Philippines need the guidance from Americans, since they will help them grow to be fit to govern themselves. My apologies, I went too far, but I'm going based off of this currently. Um, so this provides us with the idea of benevolent or benevolent assimilation, since the government is justified to allow the continuous occupation in the Philippines. For my For my last and final source, I have chose B.O. Flower. The main idea that Flower wanted to provide was he wanted to expose how violence and cruelty was happening in the Philippines, and the government was trying to prevent everybody from knowing this. The quote I chose is, Flowers wrote, "The shocking facts revealed make it impossible to call cruelty a form of loyalty." Why I chose this quote was due to it providing us how the military treated Filipinos harshly while pretending it was for their own good. This helps answer the prompt due to it revealing the violent reality behind imperialism, which many Americans were unsure about because this was something that was never taught. People sought to believe that they were helping the Philippines when in reality they were trying to take control, which is imperialism. So all these six sources together, all each quote that I have provided, all are showing us a different argument about US expansion or imperialism. Some are for imperialism, some are against it. Together, all of these will explain why the United States invaded and took control of the Philippines, since there's reasons from believing that it was their natural right and that God is leading them to do this due to them falling behind with the economics and them wanting to gain more control power of everything and catch up to the Europeans, and just overall they wanted an empire and they're creating an empire by the collecting the Philippines and taking control of land over there to grow and be stronger overall. To wrap up everything that I have been explaining in my six sources about the different views about control of the Philippines, some people like Lodge supported imperialism because of economic and racial reasons, while others like Amos Bryant and Flowers thought it went against American values and was something that should never happen. Um, the Sherman Report tried to take a middle slot and they supported the US control, but they argued that by arguing the Filipinos were not ready for independence, but wanted to not fully lie about everything, but they wanted to let some things out and gain control and support of the Americans due to all of these different feelings and mixed emotions for what is going on. Overall, these sources show how Americans argued about what the country should be, what they should follow, what they should be doing for others, how they should be treating people, what America really is. But it is a nation focused on freedom, but they were trying to transition towards a growing empire. It's all a mix of going back and forth in this situation due to imperialism. But this is the end of my essay and video. Thank you for watching.